Well, good evening, and welcome to Jerome Home. This is one of our communities as part of Hartford Healthcare. So first I want to say thank you to the kitchen. I don't know where they are. For the wonderful meal. But tonight we're talking about communication strategies and understanding behaviors. As Michelle and I have worked in the field for a number of years, these are the two areas that most people ask us questions about. So first we're going to go over some communication skills. One of the first things you want to decide is the place free from distraction? Is the TV off? Is the radio off? Is there something there that's distracting? But before you turn off that TV, we need to ask permission. Because you know what? If I walked into your house this morning and said, I'm going to turn off your TV, what might you say to me? Exactly. Really? Why? Right. Exactly. Really? Why? Or no, you're not. Right? So instead of just going in and turning something off, what if I walked in this morning and said, you know what, can I turn off your TV because I want to talk to you? Sure. Right. This is called feature function. This is what I want to do, but this is why I want to do it. Because so many times we just go to task and we're going to do what we need to do. But before we go to task, we need to connect with that person. And how do we do that? First, you want to identify yourself. Doesn't matter if you've worked with a client a week, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, or for some of us, 20 years. You need to tell them who you are every single time. And when I say every single time, I mean when you leave to go to the ladies' room or the men's room and come back to the room. I mean when you go out to the kitchen to do something and come back in the room. It's called making a connection. One of the things about Alzheimer's disease, or any of the dementias really, is it's a disconnection. All these brain cells need to talk to each other. And when they don't, they disconnect. And that's what's happening in any of these diseases. So we need to always be connecting with our folks. We always want to call them by their name. When a teacher said your name, what did you know? Right, or she was talking to you. So, hi Michelle, it's Patty.
Hi Patty.
It's great to see you.
Good to see you.
So we've made a connection. Now I'm going to do what I need to do. Maybe I need her to take medications. Maybe I need her to go take a shower. Maybe I need to get her to go to the bathroom. Okay? So we always want to be eye level, depending on where your client is. Are they standing? Are they sitting? If they're sitting, you need to be done like this. You need to be squatting. It's great for your tush. Make sure you're speaking very slowly and clearly. This is one of the issues that I have. Sometimes I get going and I talk too fast and people don't know what I'm saying. Use short, simple questions or statements. So let me start with this. What do you like for breakfast? Pancakes. Pancakes. What do you like for breakfast? Eggs. What do you like for breakfast?
Eggs and bacon.
Eggs and bacon. What do you like for breakfast? Toast. What do you like for breakfast? Hash. So I asked 5 people. Not everybody had the same answer. Right? That question is an easy question for any of us. What do you want for breakfast? But as someone who has a dementia and the brain isn't working like it used to, those questions become more and more difficult. So we need to go from an open-ended question, which that's what that is, to yes-no questions. Anytime we can do that, we give them more success. They can answer yes-no for a very long time. Who said eggs? You did. How do you like your eggs cooked? Scrambled. How do you not like your eggs cooked? Over easy. Okay, so you know what? I'm the chef tomorrow morning, and the only thing I know how to make, over easy eggs. So now I'm going to bring you your breakfast, and I'm going to put it right in front of you, and there's over easy eggs. And your language center, the part of your brain, the temple part, is where that information is processed, isn't working. How are you going to tell me you don't want those eggs? Or you may throw them at me. I've had many of eggs thrown at me. It's just as important to know if someone likes eggs, but it's even more important to know how they like them. It's going that one step further when we talk about people with dementia. A lot of people say, well, they like music. That's a pretty wide open topic. When we are talking to our folks, we want to try to use visual cues. Anytime you can use a prop, have something in your hand. So if you're talking about having tea, have a teacup in your hand. If you're talking about having lunch, have the table set up that it looks like it's time for lunch. The more we can hit a sense, the more they can see it, the more they can touch it, the more they can taste it, the better chance we have of making a connection in that brain. And then using touch. Now, I say this with some reservation, because if it's someone that you learn that doesn't like to be touched, or it's a cultural thing, or it's a religious thing, we need to respect that. So we need to know those things also. There are definitely some people who don't care to be touched, ever. Okay. Begin by being social. Again, hello, it's great to see you. Good morning. Now, when I approached Michelle and I said, good morning, hello, Michelle, it's nice to see you, it's Patty, what didn't I ask her?
How are you?
How are you? Right. So, because sometimes what happens is, how are you? I'm not sure how I am, so I must not be okay. Or, oh, let me tell you how I am. Where the hell have you been? I've been sitting here for 3 days. Now, you may be there every single day, but that person has no idea about time, day, space. So you may have been there yesterday, but they don't recall that. And now you're asking me how I am. I'm going to tell you. If you don't want to hear no, if you don't want to hear negative, don't set yourself up to hear that with questions like that. Okay? Your approach and tone of voice will definitely impact the response you're going to get. If I walked into here tonight and went, okay, so Michelle and I, we worked all day today. We were at the hospital. LifeStar came. It was a little exciting at the hospital today. But now I'm here. And what is it, Tuesday night? Well, you know what? Castle's on tonight. Good thing I got DVR. So my body language is telling you what? I don't really want to be here. What's my tone telling you? I want to be home watching Castle. Or actually the Red Sox or the Mets. But you always want to present yourself in a very calm, gentle, and very matter-of-fact. We don't want to over-explain. We don't want to colorful speech. We want it to be very matter-of-fact. We're going to go have lunch. Come on with me. It's now time to go to the doctor. Come with me. Be respectful and, of course, allow time for processing. So what I want everyone to do is count to 20. When you're done counting, just pick up your hand like this. Go ahead. No, go ahead. This is one of my favorite activities, and I'll tell you why. Everybody's 20 is different. But when I said to you, count to 20, did you think, well, that won't take any time at all? But as you were counting, did it seem longer than you thought it would take? Okay. We need to give someone with dementia at least 20 seconds, and really they're saying 60 to 90 seconds, to process information, develop an answer, and give us information back. But what do we do as humans all the time? Good morning, Michelle. What would you like for breakfast? Oh, would you like eggs?
Yes.
Would you like them scrambled, or would you like them over easy, or how would you like them?
Scrambled.
Okay. So I need to give her time to give me answers. But what if she doesn't give me an answer and I just follow up with another question? Now I'm on question 5, and Michelle's on question 1. And now she might get a little angry with me or frustrated with me. So we need to give our folks at least 20 seconds to process information. We always want to use positive language. Let's go this way instead of don't do that. Now, one of my days, and it's very difficult, in the middle of winter, how warm is it in your clients' houses? Right? Really hot. They got the heat cranking. They have on 5 sweaters. And you're like, oh, it's so warm. And then it's a warm, beautiful, sunny day, and that sun's coming in the window. So now it feels even warmer. And now I'm a person with dementia, and my world is real right here. And I think it's July. Or I think it's August. And now I'm headed to the door in my capris and a light sweater on. And you're like, no, you can't go that way. Don't do that. And I watch my staff many times stand at a door and block it and go, no, don't do that. And I looked at my staff, I go, open the door. They're like, Patty, it's freezing out. Open the door. They open the door. The lady goes, holy crap, it's freezing, and shuts the door. But we so often go, no, don't do that. No, don't go that way. Stop doing that. And guess what we get? Pushback, right? You tell me no, I'll tell you. I'll show you no.
So if you can agree with them, even though after you agree, you know, you kind of try to redirect, because it's going to work a lot better than explaining to them why they can't do it. And like Patty said, she was able to recognize it was cold. Some still would want to go out because maybe they're not, you know, interpreting through their senses how cold it is. But if we can agree with the person with what they want to do, that's a great idea, but before we can do that, let's do this, or I need to finish this. So you're kind of going along with them, but you're diverting them to something else. Can you help me with this, you know, after you agree? And it's going to work a lot better.
But in the world of dementia, even early on, you're going to slow it down. Yes. Even early on, even early stage, even 1 through 3. Now these folks, some of them are still working, some are still driving. We're still going to slow down. We see more in 4, 5, or later, we're really going to slow down because you see that progression. But really, I mean, the other thing that's very difficult about staging is I can be a 4 in the morning, and by 3 o'clock, I'm a 5 because I'm tired. You had me going to the doctor's today. You had me in the grocery store today. I've been to a couple different places. I've had to process a lot of different things. Come 3:30, 4 o'clock, wow, I'm tired, and now I'm not processing the way I was early this morning. So staging is very difficult when you're talking about dementias. You know, docs like to do it. Some families want to know exactly what stage their loved one's in. But really, when it comes to your folks, and by the time families are inviting you in to work with their loved one, they're usually the beginning of moderate. So you're talking that 20 seconds.
Yeah. And you can read their body language. If you say something to them, provided, you know, you've got to get their attention. In the front, say their name. They got to be looking at you. Then you talk. And you read their body language. You know, if they look perplexed or they look like, what is she talking? You know, you can give them time. And if not, you know, say it again. Or you can say, you look, you know, let me explain to you what I want you to do or whatever. But a lot of it is just kind of watching there.
So we're going to deliver a message clearly and simply right now. Michelle's going to hand out 3 pieces of paper.
These are the messages.
Yep, those are the clear messages.
Okay.
So the person who gets it, I want only that person to read what it says to themselves.
Just to yourself.
Don't let anyone else at your table see it. Look at Nick. He's trying to run away. Michelle, get Nick. Get Nick. Michelle, get Nick.
He doesn't want to do it. I'll get Marlene.
Me? What am I doing?
You're going to read this to
Okay,
yourself.
so
and
who
you're
got
gonna
the
see
first
what you did.
ticket? Or the first strip of paper?
You'll see what it says, and you're going to do it.
Okay, so read what it says and do exactly what it says. Don't read it out loud. Read it to yourself and then do exactly what it says.
Right now?
No, not yet.
Just you.
Just the,
Come back! Michelle, go grab her. Okay, so
She's
what did
sneaking
you
out.
think? What do you think it said on that piece of paper?
come on.
Yeah, no, it actually
No.
said, "Get out of here."
What did it tell him what it said?
Right? Because how many of us kidding around with our client might go, "Oh, come on, get out of here." People with Alzheimer's and dementia listen to each word, and they're doing what each word says. They don't understand sarcasm. They don't understand humor a lot. So they sit, you know, oh, come on, get out of here. All right, I'm out. You did. Thank you. All right, who's the next person?
The gentleman back with the green.
Okay, read what it says and do what it
Oh, yeah.
to yourself and do what it says. Oh, he's good.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to bring him on the road with us. What do you think that piece of paper said?
Face around.
Okay. All right, what did it say? Go over there. Go over there. Because how many of us are sitting in a room and we go, oh, go ahead over there. Where is there?
Yeah.
That is not a place. Go over there. Come over here. If we are talking to someone who has a dementia, we need to say, come sit in this chair and pat this chair. Now, Nick, you don't have to move, but I am going to use your name, only because I know it. So one of my pet peeves when I worked in a community about this size was my staff would be over here, and maybe they saw Nick coming through a door, and they go, Nick, I want you to sit in this chair. Now I'm calling him by name. I'm calling this a chair, but he's way over there. And by the time my words kind of get past my hands, they start floating. And all of a sudden you may start seeing Nick going like this. Where's that coming from? Because it's not a good connection. If I want Nick to sit in this chair and he's over there, I need to get up, walk over, connect with Nick. Hi, Nick, it's good to see you, and bring him over here. So if you're in someone's house saying, oh, go ahead over there, that's not a direction, because that's not a place. Okay?
Marlene.
Marlene. Thank you.
Like stand on a chair so everybody can see what I'm doing.
Come right up here. We got a chair right here for you.
This is my first acting gig, so
We'll see if you.
At least she read it right.
Yeah.
I was stressing over it actually.
What'd she say?
She was stressing over it.
Oh, come on.
I didn't want to mess up.
No, there's no messing up.
There's no stress in dementia.
No.
So what do you think that piece of paper said? Right. In the English language, a lot of times we say, please put your shoes and socks on.
Woohoo!
Right? So again, in the English language, we have some phrases that don't make a lot of sense when you really think about it. Put your shoes and socks on. One of the young ladies who I believe she was from Poland said, well, we say in our language, put your socks, then your shoes on.
Yeah.
So depending if you're from another country, this may look really, not normal. But here in the United States, a lot, or people who speak English say, oh, let's put your shoes and socks on. A lot of us say it to our kids too. So one of the big, if you repeat exactly the same way and respond to response. So if you are saying to someone, put your socks on, and then you're waiting, you need to say it again, please put your socks on. You're saying the exact same words. Because when we change the words, it's a whole new process that they have to go through. To us, it may sound funny. Why am I saying this so many times? But for them, it really is how they take in that information. And then learn from your mistakes. But I guarantee you'll make mistakes again.
Oh, yeah.
When I worked directly with people with dementia, I was wrong at least 100 times a day. At least.
It's not intuitive to care for somebody with dementia because we have to learn new responses because their behavior is how they manage their world that they're living in with their confusion and forgetfulness. And so we have to kind of recognize that it's not automatic like what you would do if you were caring for somebody whose brain was intact or the way we take care of children. And that's the whole thing about the communication. It's practice, it's kind of slowing it down, it's kind of recognizing that we have to learn new ways to respond if we want to have the relationship less stressful and less, tension.
So habitats of a lifetime. How many people in the room wear socks to bed? Okay. How many people in the room, if you put socks on them to go to bed, would probably kick somebody? Don't be putting socks on me anytime soon. That's very important to know. How many people in the room drink black coffee? Okay. So my mother drinks black coffee, and I always think if she ever got dementia and I put my coffee in front of her, because I like extra cream and one equal, she may not even recognize it as coffee. She might be like, what is this? So it's not only important that I drink coffee for breakfast, how do I like it made? Now we had a woman, there's a wonderful book out there called Creating Moments of Joy by Jolene Breakey. If you ever get a chance to read that book, it's fabulous. In it, she talks about these habits of a lifetime. And there's a story about a woman that was in a nursing home, And every night before bed, as her dementia had progressed pretty far, she was getting very agitated and very anxious, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. So the daughter comes in, and they said to the daughter, this is what's happening. Can you give us any insight about your mom? And she said, well, does my mom have her white sweater on that has the pocket and her rosary beads in her right pocket? The staff go, what? We didn't know that that was important to her. Now, I'm a rec therapist. How many times have I checked off? She's Jewish, she's Catholic, she's Protestant, she's Muslim, she's, whatever the faith is. We got to, again, go that extra step and know what's important to that person. Once we put the beads in her pocket, as soon as she got anxious, she'd go like this. She'd go.
It's recognizing, and I don't know how many of you have social histories or have any information, good information about your patients' or clients' lifetime prior to. Does somebody do a big social history before? Not really. So, and so especially for people with dementia, I mean, obviously people that brain is functioning, they can tell you what they like and don't like, and they can figure out things with you to do, or with you not knowing what they liked or who they were before. We only see them from that moment on, and it's difficult, especially when there's anxiety or agitation, and the habits of a lifetime are really, really, really important to know if we can. As we can look at asking a family member, or maybe in the initiation, in the opening of the case, kind of trying to get a little bit, and there's some really good forms out there that you can work on. We could share with you,
Anytime that we can connect with an old memory that's in there and they can pull it out, what a joy that is for them, because they're now having success. If I'm a person with a dementia, I wake up every morning, and I wake up, unfortunately, sometimes failing. I'm not sure where I am. I don't know what I'm doing today. What am I having for breakfast? Is someone going to help me? So I could wake up failing. How can I bring success to that day? So let me ask everyone in the room. Anybody, there's got to be some folks, under 25. Okay. So you're under 25 years old. Nobody else answer this question. If you're under 25, where are you going shopping in downtown Hartford for a prom dress? Downtown Hartford. Okay, ladies and gentlemen over 35, where are they going? G-Fox. G-Fox was the store in downtown Hartford for a number of years. But if you're not from Connecticut, if you're under 25, you may not know what a G-Fox is. But if you're in your 80s, you certainly know what G-Fox is, and you certainly remember the owners, and you can almost, I had a group of ladies that told me it was on every floor in G-Fox. And one day I was sitting with 5 of my ladies, and we were talking about G-Fox and the Easter dresses, and one of my young staff from Haiti, she was 19 years old, walks by and goes, what's a G-Fox? Those 5 ladies let her have it. So I looked at her, I go, you bought it at G-Fox, the Easter dress, right? She goes, oh yeah. But knowing that, we call that age culture. Here in America, we talk a lot about culture because we are this wonderful melting pot. We need to also talk about age culture. One day I was walking down the hall with one of my residents in upstate New York when I worked up there for a number of years, and it was the year 2000. And I am not a Yankee fan, but she was. And I said, Cheryl, we're going down to watch the Yankees. And she looked at me, she goes, do you think Joe DiMaggio's in the lineup today? Now, he had not played since 1952, and it was the year 2000. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? I don't know who's in the lineup, but let's go find out. And this is when you hope memory loss comes into play and she forgets that question. And when we got down there, it didn't matter who was playing. Her pinstripes were on television. That's all that mattered. But would it have benefited me to say, well, he's dead? No. Right. Or, well, he hasn't played in about 50 years. So we go along to get along. Okay. What were their food choices? Who were their family and friends? Community involvement. Were they a Knights of Columbus? Were they an Elks Club? There's lots of great orders in this state that people are involved with. Spirituality. So when I say the word spirituality, what do I mean? When you hear that word, what do you think of? Religion. What else? Beliefs. Beliefs. What else? A lot of times what I hear is religion, church, music, hymns, passages, Bible, or whatever you may read. Spirituality, for someone whose brain is very limited, it's anything that touches their spirit. Anything. So I took 3 ladies to Dairy Queen. We got little ice cream cones. Wow, did their spirits soar. That's spirituality at its finest, right there. You can see it in their face. You can hear it when they start humming. That's what we talk about when we talk about spirit. It absolutely can be church. It absolutely can be faith. It can be music. But it also can be an ice cream cone. Chronic medical conditions that may cause pain or discomfort. You know, as we all age, some of us are getting older than others, things start to break down. Has anyone here ever had a toothache before you've had the root canal done? How do you feel? Like you're dying. Right. One of the last parts of the brain to be destroyed by dementia is called the amygdala, and it's the emotional part of our brain. This is a very emotional disease. People no longer think things through or break things down. They react. So if you had an infection in your tooth, and here I come with a big glass of iced tea with big chunks of ice in it, and I'm like, here you go. What would you do? Absolutely. Want to smack me? I don't blame you. If you have the gout in your foot and I'm getting near that foot, what would you do? Hide that foot. Right. So we have to think about other chronic conditions. What makes them feel safe and secure? When we talk about someone who has a dementia, we're talking about very basic feelings. Love, security, and safety. So, Michelle, if you would face me, please. So,
and the biggest emotion felt by anybody with a dementia is fear, all the time. So they're always coming from that fearful place a lot of times. So that's why we get those quick reactions that are kind of abrupt.
Back up a little bit.
Okay.
So, earlier we said we should always approach from the front. So, right, she reacts because I'm a big woman.
Charging at me, charging at me. No.
No. So if I come up, I need to stop and I need to open my hips. Because if at any point Michelle feels like she needs to get out of here, she needs that out. We need to give her that out. Now, I just kind of made a joke that I'm a big woman, but I have to be very aware when I am working with someone with dementia, because I am a big woman. I'm over 5'6". I have these wonderful shoulders that are Borden shoulders, they call them. And I have to be very aware when I'm around someone who has a dementia, because if I stand over them, how do you feel? Right. Thank you for not hitting me. But, I mean, we laugh and we giggle, but think about, I used to work in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. Many of my residents where I worked were Italian. Many of them were 4'10" and weighed 100 pounds. And oh my God, here comes Patty O'Brien. So I had to be very aware where my body was and how close I was getting. One of the things we talk a lot about is there anyone in there as someone advances into those really later stages? Why is communication important? What does that do for you? What does communication do for you on a daily basis? Say it louder. Teaches. Absolutely. What else? How do you make connections without communication? Right. Anybody have kids in the room? Okay. So how often do you talk to them? And now maybe you have a parent that has a dementia that can't talk to you as much as they used to. How else can they communicate? How is quality of life impacted by good communication? Are your patient clients, what do you call them?
Clients.
Thank you. Are your clients ever frustrated with communication? Do they ever express that? Okay. Now, it's all how we react. We're going to talk about that a little bit more when we talk about behaviors. But that's the big piece. When you're talking about good communication and they say something that's totally off the wall, you're like, how we react to that can make a good connection or can make that a very bad connection.
You know, we always want to try to put ourselves into their shoes and think before, because, you know, they react because that's their quick, and that's where they're coming from. But we have to, the responding means taking a step back. You don't have to be quick in responding, you know, unless it's a safety thing, of course, but you can kind of try to put yourself in their shoes and feel, you know, why they may be feeling frustrated or, you know, angry or worried.
So the two areas typically that people see when someone has a dementia that are first impacted are memory and language. Those are warning signs. These are the first parts of this disease. So by the time someone calls to get a caregiver in their home, someone has significant memory loss and significant language difficulties. So when they can't use words, they're going to use other things. So we're going to talk about that now.
Which is behavior, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the emotions.
Yep. So Michelle's going to hand out some little pieces of paper. And again, don't show anybody your piece of paper. We're going to see how good you guys are at improv.
You practiced it with Pam, probably.
Has anyone here ever done improv before?
I think we did it with
Have you?
Pam.
Yeah, this one. It is, it's great. All right, Brett, come on up. Let me see what you got. Okay, so you can't say it, you have to act it out, and they have to guess what it says on this piece of paper.
Can't say anything.
Cannot say anything, no words. Your language center has been hit by dementia. So what do you think her piece of paper says? Happy. You got it. Happy. Who else has a piece of paper? Go ahead, stand up.
I don't want that tea. I'm not going to drink that tea. You're not going to make me drink this tea. No, 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 no. Don't follow me. No. No.
So what is she trying to tell you? Just one tea. Okay.
Hopefully, if I'm a good.
Oh, that's a hard one. Yeah.
That is a hard one. But,
Rage, yeah, you
right,
got it, rage. Good.
But we listen to her words, right? She doesn't want tea. It's rage.
Rage.
So what we need to look at more than words is emotion.
Right.
What's the emotion behind her words? Go ahead. There you
Excited.
go. Excited. Yeah. Who else has a piece of paper? Go ahead.
Thank you.
Scared.
Scared, yeah.
Thank God she smiled after. Go ahead. Yep, go ahead. Yeah. Don't say any words, just. Oh, there you go.
Bored, yeah.
Bored. Okay, so bored. Very good. Who else has a piece of paper?
Bored.
Okay, go ahead. Angry.
Angry.
He's like, I got it. I got it. I understand. Go ahead.
Bored, we had two of them.
Anybody else have a
Oh,
piece
worried.
of paper?
It was worried.
Okay. So those little words, right? We sometimes we heard words, but they weren't what was on the piece of paper. Other times we heard no words, but we could figure out what was wrong. So again, we want to look at the emotion behind what's going on. So sometimes what I hear from a lot of people is, my client keeps asking me, telling me I want to go home, and we're sitting in her house. So I had a gentleman in West Hartford who every night his wife was arguing with him, saying, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home. And he tried to explain, honey, we've lived here over 60 years. We raised our children here. Now our grandchildren come to visit. I hate it here. Take me home. He said, okay. Put her in the car. They went for a little ride for about 20 minutes, came home, came back into the same driveway, went into the same living room and said, honey, we're home. She said, thank God I hated that other place. It was not about the structure. It was about the feeling.
It's a feeling of safety. Home is a safety, familiar, so if they're feeling confused, they don't recognize their home, they're going to react to it. Now, obviously, you guys can't say, well, come on, we'll go find your home if you don't have a car and taking your clients out. But you can always say, too, you can say, tell me about your home. And they may start talking about a home that is when they grew up as a child. Or, I had a woman who kept wanting to go upstairs to the bedroom, and they've lived in a small cottage on the ocean for 30 years, but she grew up in Boston in one of the flats, and she wanted to go upstairs to the bedroom, and her husband kept telling her, there's no upstairs, look at, and he kept trying to, and then we said, I said to her, tell me about your home, because she was telling me, and it was in Boston where she grew up. So sometimes reminiscing like that, they can tell you a little bit about it, and then after oh, that sounds like a really nice place. Oh, by the way, can you help me do something? Or let's go have a cup of tea. So then you redirect. Because this gentleman was able to do the going out of the home, but I know you guys may not be able to do that kind of. But trying to show them their home and point out their belongings at that moment isn't going to help them feel like it's home. It's all about the feeling. It's just, too, when they talk about looking for their mom or their dad that is deceased because they're quite elderly, it's the same thing. It's feeling insecure, it's feeling fear. And same thing about maybe reminiscing about their mom, oh, tell me, what, your mom's, was your mom a good cook? And maybe try to, elicit some conversation. Or you can say something like, sounds like you're thinking about your mom and you miss her. You're not really saying she's dead, but you're kind of saying, sounds like you're thinking about your mom. So, to try to validate what they're kind of wanting to talk about.
So if a person walked up to me who had a dementia and said, is my husband dead? Would I say yes?
No.
Yes, I would.
Would you ask them first whether they thought they were enough?
Nope, I would answer it and I would wait for the reaction. And based on the reaction, my next time I may have a different answer.
Yeah.
But I had a woman that would walk up to me and say, is my husband dead? I said, yes. She said, thank you. Because I'm like, well.
It's not going to go over for many people.
Right.
It can really turn into a crisis, though, if they don't think that, and you say yes, and then they start screaming at you, why would you say that? And my husband's not dead, and
So that's
why are you lying?
Right, that's what you would come back with, oh my God, you're right, I'm wrong. Everybody learn those words. You're right, I'm wrong, I promise I'll never do it again. Guess what, you will, because again, we all make mistakes, but the person with dementia is always right. You as the caregiver are always wrong, and we try not to do it again.
And some other things people might say, let me look at the time. Oh, it's around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Where do you think your husband could be? And she, oh, gee, it's only 1 o'clock. He's probably at work still. They can solve it themselves if you kind of go along with it a little bit and just, that's the improv stuff. It's kind of, saying, gee, today's Tuesday, and did he have an appointment? Or you can kind of try to, keep it light, but kind of redirecting again.
The other thing with doing something like that, you need to know the person.
You need to know the person.
And where they are from and what their connections are. Because again, in that book, Creating Moments of Joy, Jolene talks about a gentleman that moved into her community, and he kept going up to people, have you seen my Betsy? She is the love of my life. I haven't seen her all day. I need to find her. And they were like, oh, Betsy, it must be a woman. She's getting her hair done. What? You're crazy. You're nuts.
It's a dog.
And went up to the next person and said the same thing. And went to the next person and said the same thing. It was his cow.
Yeah.
So Betsy wasn't getting her hair done. Betsy was not, shopping. So at 3:30, 4 o'clock every day as the sun was going down, where did Betsy need to be?
In the barn.
In the barn. Because this gentleman was a farmer. So once they figured that out, and he would start with Betsy, you know what? It's okay. Betsy's in the barn. We already got her in. He'd go, oh, thank God. Because that was a real worry for him.
That's the biggest thing about any of your dementia clients that you have. Really should have, whoever does the initial opening should really get some history, so that you can have things to go back to that really made them very comfortable, hobbies they enjoyed, their work, anything you want to know about them that their family can tell you, because it always helps them to say, oh, you really know me, if you can kind of say things about their past. So, all right, so now we're going to switch over just a little bit to when words fail. As Patty was saying, many times as you go through this disease process, most people will have some language difficulties. And a lot of times, they get the tip of the tongue where they can't finish the sentence or they can't get the word out. It can even become even more pronounced where they really can't, they're using words like saying a hand clock for a watch. They lose words in their dictionary, and so they have a very hard time communicating. And we want to make sure that we kind of can observe and take in what's going on with them so we can kind of have a better way of handling a situation. When these things that we're going to look at here kind of all show us that maybe they're in pain. Now the pain can be physical pain due to an illness, or it could just be that they're hungry, they need to use the bathroom, they need to walk around a little bit, that they just don't feel comfortable and they need something. So, obviously breathing, if you see, problems with breathing, provided they don't have a big lung disease or something, that this is a common thing, or severe allergies that are going on. Obviously, if something comes on quickly, a big change like that, you would want to consider a medical observation would be helpful, so you'd contact your supervisor, I guess. Negative vocalizations, sometimes they will go on, just kind of use a word and just blah, 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 blah. That could be showing you that they're uncomfortable or they need something. Moaning, repeated calling out, screaming, crying. Sometimes it happens, and so we don't know what to do, but trying to recognize that perhaps what could they need and try to tease it out. Facial expressions, if they're sad, frightened, frowning, grimacing, it's good to say, you look sad right now. Is it, would a hug help? Or want to take a walk? Or I can see that you're frustrated. Let me help you. If they're trying to, do something that they seem to be frustrated with. Sometimes they're looking for something, they've misplaced it. That's very frustrating. If you lost something, you know how mad you get and how you're just crazy acting looking for it. So, trying to, once again, put yourself in their shoes and say, you know what, I get so upset too when I lose things. Let me help you look for it.
So
also,
let me just ask this group a question.
Yeah.
Who in the room has a dog? Okay. So, your dog just got hit by a car. How do you feel? How do you feel?
I would feel anxious, I would feel sad, I would.
You know what? It's going to be okay. How many of us say that to our clients when we see someone upset? You're going to be okay. No, she's not. She's upset. I know.
yeah.
We need to identify a feeling, and we need to make sure they know that we're sorry that you're feeling that. Now, that memory may have happened 30 years ago, but it's real, and it's right now, and this is what I know, and I'm upset. So when we talk about, unable to console or distract, we need to identify that feeling and connect with it.
Yeah, validating feelings is really, and then redirection. That really is key, if you can think about that. Also, body language, as we said, they have the amygdala is not affected till late in the disease, as Patty said. So affect is contagious. How we behave, they kind of sense if we're stressed or anxious, they sense that. So in a situation where they're really resistant, if you're feeling like, oh, I just want to do this and I want this person to cooperate, they can sense it, and it might even create the opposite, that they're not going to do it. And I'm not picking on anybody here in particular. I'm not really. But I think sometimes we just have to recognize that if we can exhibit the behavior that the calm, it is they're going to sense that. Just like if they're kind of stressed and frustrated, we've all walked on eggs before with somebody, or we've known when a boss is upset or teacher's upset or whatever. Everybody's experienced that. We can tell when they are feeling upset and not quite right. And it's up to us to kind of go ahead and try to be validating their feeling, trying to offer some reassurance. A lot of reassurance is good. Sometimes it's a matter of touch. Sometimes it's just a matter of leaving them alone for a little bit so they can relax, putting on some soft music that they like, or a type of music that you found out that they like, hymns or patriotic or whatever. And it's kind of really difficult because we have to kind of be detectives almost when they can't tell us. And unfortunately, this disease does take away language or changes the ability to understand or express language quite often. And so the pain thing, though, is something that's really we want you to kind of be thinking about. And it doesn't have to be, real severe pain, but it can just be thirst, hunger, need to use the bathroom, things like that. So when we're talking about completing a task, helping somebody to complete a task, once again, we've always got to get the connection. And as Patty was saying, we have to approach them from the front. We have to get their attention through eye contact. And we have to let them know what we want to do. It's time to get washed up. And let them process that and see, if you can focus on the familiar. If you know that they liked, sponge baths for the last 10 years, or they liked tub baths or showers in the evening, if we know their habit of a lifetime, how they bathe, it's going to help us to be able to create that same type of environment that's going to let them be as independent and successful as they want to be and can be. So we focus on the familiar skills, things that they know, things that are kind of comforting to them. Limited choices. We talked about open-ended questions are too hard for a person. So if we can give a choice, would you like to wear this blue sweater or this red sweater? So they still feel that they're being respected and they're still in control, but it's not like, what do you want to wear? And they generally will choose the last thing. So if you really want them to use the last thing, put that last, But it's allowing time for the information to be absorbed. The processing is very slow, as we mentioned. And we often feel like they didn't hear us or they didn't understand us, and it's truly just giving them the amount of time. Working with somebody with a dementia it's got to be much more person-centered, less task-driven, and it has to be much more slow. We have to do things in a much slower pace and a calm pace, because as I said, they can sense your stress and they're going to react on it negatively. Repeating instructions exactly the same each time if they didn't seem to understand us. Breaking steps down into simple steps. So breaking anything they do, starting with the first thing, let's go to your bedroom and get to the bedroom. And then let's, pick out your sweater. One step at a time. It's going to help them to be able to understand the sequence of the event or the task, and they're going to like it a lot better and feel much more in control and much more successful. Modifying, simplifying the steps if necessary, like if you were doing some activity together, some game, some craft, some whatever it might be, cooking or something, being able to demonstrate, visually show them. A lot of times people with the dementia will mirror us, and that helps them to be able to continue to do it. If they have difficulty with eating, sometimes it's better if you sit across and they can kind of watch you versus sitting like, in a 90-degree angle. Being sure to allow enough time. That's the biggest thing and also recognizing the task or whatever you're doing, it doesn't have to be, if it's not done completely or it's not done the way you think is the best way, there's many ways to accomplish something. If you're saying a bath, maybe it's just doing a nice foot soak and a hand soak and, putting cream on initially. Or maybe it's when they're on the toilet using the wipes, the wipes that people use and helping them to kind of wash up that way. It's not an ideal bath, but it's getting them clean and maybe they're less intimidated or upset by kind of doing it that way. So when you are having difficulties accomplishing a task, ask yourself, is your question too complex? Is it too difficult for them to understand what you want them to do? Also, are you providing too much information? Less words is better. We like to talk, we like to explain, we kind of like to reason with people, and that's the way you treat normal people with a healthy brain. But with somebody with a dementia, we really want to keep it very simple. If you're having trouble being understood, you know, they don't really understand you or you can't understand them, you know, listen a little closer. Try to just have the positive body language to show I'm trying to understand what you want me to do. Focus on a word or phrase that they are saying. You know, sometimes we repeat the word back and it can be helpful for them to understand. Responding to the emotional tone. Once again, if you sense they're getting anxious, you sense they're frustrated, stating the word. It's okay if it's negative. You know, it's also great to see when they're happy or they seem very joyful, and they're really, to point that out is, I love seeing you laugh like this, you know, or to see that you're so happy with this show we're watching or whatever, because it just is a way to kind of talk to them about the emotions that they're feeling. And the remaining calm. Many times caregivers of somebody with a dementia, whether it be yourselves, you know, being professional caregivers or family caregivers, we feel very frustrated, or we feel very, we're not as useful or productive as we want to be. We have to recognize that that's part of the game, caring for somebody with this disease. And we have to try to, even if we don't feel calm, try to have a calm, you know, impression so that they will not sense and can become more resistant. It's very, it's hard. It's constantly practice and helping, recognizing and telling yourself that you're okay, that you slow down. The expectations, that sometimes care partners or caregivers' expectations are too high, and that's hard. It's hard to be in your shoes, but it's okay if you if the person seems content and well cared for, they're happy, and that's what we want. So we're going to talk about what behavior means. I know Pam spoke a lot about behavior as communication in her at the end of her last session, and it's truly something that is what we need to think about. So think about behavior. Our behavior is how we express our wants, our needs, and our feelings. And when you think about behavior, it always means something. So we are goal-directed. We want something to happen, so we behave in a certain way. It also is generally context-defined. What that means is you act differently here in your work environment than you might act with friends on the weekends or at church or wherever. We act differently in different places, context-defined. And we behave, and it's also, behavior is learned, and it's how we have learned to be able to take care of our charge of our life. And the thing about behavior is it can be changed. And when you think about that, when you don't get what you want with the behavior you're putting out there, we will behave differently to try to get what we want. And when you think about children's behavior, you know, you think about a child, we can do behavior modification with a child because something happens, they behave a certain way, and then there's a consequence. And we can help them to, by changing the consequence, we can maybe change their behavior. With a person with dementia, something happens, it's the beginning, and then the behavior occurs, and then the consequence is not quite as, we can't do behavior modification because they can't really learn how to change that with their state of the brain at this time. So it's really trying to figure out what happened before the behavior. What was that trigger before the behavior? And then we can change that trigger if we know what sets them off or makes them feel upset or gives them pleasure. We can use that prior to the behavior and change it so that we can, they'll behave differently. To change a person's behavior with a dementia, we must change the way we respond to the behavior. So they react, they can't really change their behavior. They're just acting what the brain is telling them that they can do. If you learn to listen for clues as to how I feel instead of what I say, you will be able to understand me much better. And that is, it's Maria Botanis or something, yes, said that about, you know, and this is about dementia care. You know, you're going to understand me a lot better if you listen to what I'm feeling or try to understand what I'm feeling versus what I'm saying. So behaviors of persons with memory loss. Most behaviors of those with dementia are the person's way of responding to the world that they're living in. It's very confusing. They may withdraw from engaging with people. We see the people with dementia start making their world smaller. They may deny that they did something and often have no memory of doing it. If you say, oh no, you did that, they don't know, absolutely not. They may make up a story to kind of explain why they did something because they don't really know why they did it. So if you ask them, put them on the spot, they can tell a story. It's called confabulating. They may become angry when confronted about their behavior. And as I said before, the overriding emotion is fear. People with dementia are fearful. Fear of the unknown, fear of failing or being caught in error, especially in the beginning of this disease. They don't want it, looks like they can't do something. Fear of looking foolish, fear of feeling lost, and the fear of being abandoned. Many times, you know, they really do feel nobody's going to want to be around them, and the world does become smaller. People will talk about that are able to do, I read a lot of blogs of people with this disease, and they often talk about they've lost, their friends have pulled away and people have left them. Because I don't know if they think it's contagious, which it's not. They don't know how to interact with them. They feel sad when they see their person like this. Variety of reasons. We don't really know why, but it's very, very common that they kind of pull away. So when we think about behavior, all behavior means something. And when a person has Alzheimer's or a dementia, expressing in words what he thinks, needs, or wants becomes difficult. So when you're seeing a behavior with a person that you're working with that has a dementia, you can say, I wonder what it's like, I want, I feel, or I need. If they, you know, what could this, if you look at those three words, what could they want right now? What could they be feeling, or what could they need right now? Looking at the behaviors as saying something, telling you something, be curious, you know, consider what could it be and try to solve it. I mean, it's, once again, it's person-centered care versus task-driven care. We don't want to criticize anybody's behavior. We kind of want to empathize, you know, like I said, put yourself in their shoes and try to help him feel in control. You know, kind of give words to his actions. You seem angry. Sometimes it's all you say and then you stop talking. You know, or you can say, I'm sorry, you're so upset. Stop talking. Let them process it and see if they can kind of, you know, are you uncomfortable? Do you want something to drink? You know, yes, no question like that. Can I help you? Maybe they can tell you, maybe they can't. It all goes further than saying, what is the matter with you? That's not going to work. They're going to get defensive, they're going to feel bad, and it's just a matter of trying to put yourself in their shoes. Sometimes it's just they're overwhelmed. They can be overstimulated very, very easily, and they can also be understimulated, nothing to do, and they can act on those two feelings of, you know, their behaviors. So when we try to think about what can create a behavior problem, there's a variety of things. Inability to communicate, we've been talking about language all night. It becomes very, very difficult for people. Some people get really, really, really frustrated or very upset because they know what they want to say, it won't come out. My aunt has Alzheimer's disease and she has no language anymore, but she kind of knows if you talk with her, she understands, she can't express it. It's frustrating for her and it's hard to see. Difficulty with task. We talked a little bit about slowing down the task, you know, giving them clear instructions, one step at a time, letting them know what we're going to be doing. The more you can kind of keep them feeling at ease and understanding what's going on, the less you'll see a behavior problem. Unfamiliar surroundings. Many times we may think, boy, you know, we'd love to go to this restaurant for a nice dinner, or take a walk at the mall or Walmart. That surrounding itself can be too upsetting to a person with this disease, and you may see a behavior problem. When they start saying, I want to go home, I got to get out of here, I got to get out of here, I got to get out of here, they're kind of, and they're getting more anxious. You recognize that they're not feeling safe or secure, and it's probably best to find a quiet place or leave. Loud noises, frantic environments, they don't work anymore for people with this disease. It becomes too overstimulating and frightening. And then once again, the physical discomfort. You know, thinking about, are they in pain? Are they hungry? Are they thirsty? Are they tired? You know, some of those things that make us all feel a little irritable and unhappy could also be creating the behavior problem. So it's kind of thinking about it, you know, as a puzzle and thinking about the different things going on around the person. When you're seeing some, you know, easily upset by something or feeling a little bit, you see them pacing or restless up and down off the seat, and moving around. They're kind of showing you that they're feeling a little restless. Maybe they just need to expend some energy. A good long walk would be helpful. Maybe they are feeling anxious, and we want to try to help them feel reassured. Patty's going to talk a little bit about managing challenging behaviors. Before we do that, though, what are some behaviors that you find most difficult to handle, or questions or things that you can think about that you're finding difficult in a situation you're working in?
Sometimes when I work with Alzheimer patients, the sundowners is very difficult.
Late afternoon, if at time of day when they are increased. That's another good time to know what used to calm the person, what they might enjoy doing. I had a woman whose husband loved the Red Sox, and she had the DVD of a Red Sox game, and every day around the same time he got very anxious, and she said, let's see if the Sox are on. It didn't matter what season. And she put that DVD in, his legs up in the recliner, and he was thrilled. 9 innings he sat and watched the same game every single day. It was comforting, relaxing, and it was, so those kinds of things, if you know, sometimes, when they are feeling that particularly more anxious and they are moving and pacing, if they're not disturbed or feeling you feel like they're kind of just letting them do it is okay. They have to kind of release some energy. It's hard to see, though. And you feel like I think all of you in here, as I do, and I'm sure Patty, we want to fix things. We want to help people feel, and it's hard to see when they're kind of out of sorts, but it's a very common phenomenon that happens.
Especially around full moon.
With what?
Full moon.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah. I know. Very hard. Any other questions? Yes.
How about like people that are like later stage of dementia?
Yes.
They really do, and when we're just coming on to the case at that time, like they had like a family caregiver or whatever, somebody else taking care of them. So it's kind of hard to like, I know I have a client who, the husband also is elderly, and he doesn't have Alzheimer's or dementia, but he has like the normal aging things going on, and he has a certain way he does things all the time. And when I come there, she can't communicate with me. I can sometimes get her to say like yes or no, but that to me is a challenge when they're already that far ahead in the disease, and you're just like walking in and you don't really have any.
Can you ask the husband, to show you how he does it, to incorporate his, because she's used to his routine, maybe?
It's not so much routine, but like time wise, like
Oh.
you're there, okay, so yeah, you have to clean a little, maybe make them lunch, help with the toileting and stuff, but then like over that amount of time where like you're talking about like overstimulating, like obviously this woman cannot, she used to like playing dominoes, she
Can't do it anymore.
like
Right.
there's certain things that like they may have liked to do, but there's like really no way.
To simplify it so that they can still do it.
Yeah, like I mean it's kind of, I don't want to say not doing anything, like I started doing like music with her,
Right.
start music, put the music on.
Sometimes, aromatherapy, they say, maybe like a little, hand cream, some of those kinds of things too. Just kind of, and the music is really great.
Just more of actually kind of more just like relaxing things.
Yes.
Tactile.
Yeah, if especially if she responds to that in a positive way. If she's quiet and seems calm, content, then that's good. That's good. You're doing a very good job. So maybe, I don't know if she likes her hair brushed or, different things, but a lot of times it is, I think, what you're doing. But I hear what you're saying. It is hard to kind of figure out what to do for her. But once again, I think we always want to do something when we're working we feel we should be. Right. Sometimes it's just being there with her. Your presence is comforting enough. Any other questions? Okay.
Great. All right. So when we're managing challenging behaviors, and a little more about sundowning. One of the theories behind sundowning is all day long a person with dementia is like, I'm looking at her, I'm not sure who she is, I'm not sure who you are, you look familiar, who are you, what is that thing? And all day long I'm rethinking, reprocessing, and then 3:30, 4 o'clock, my brain is tired. And when do a lot of adult children come to visit their loved ones? After work. Prime time, right, for sundowning. And I walk in as the adult child and I say, Mom, what'd you do today? Nothing. What do you mean nothing? Didn't that aide do anything with you? Didn't they take you to the mall? What did they feed you for lunch? I haven't eaten all day. They didn't feed you anything? Yeah.
Right.
So that's, so now this agitation starts rolling. So one of the things we do want at that time of the day is to really slow it down, to find an activity that can really bring a calmness to them. Because then we might, if we don't, we may get into some of these challenging behaviors. But right before a behavior, think about what happened right before that. Was it a TV show? Was there a loud noise? What happened right before this, who was involved, time of day, where did it happen? Not able to follow a request or being asked too much, not understanding sensory information, not understanding what they're seeing, what they're hearing. This happens during the disease. Are they feeling insecure or having a real fear? There's that brain overload. Inability to perform a task. Anyone here a neuroscientist? No? Amy? Okay, just checking. So now I'm going to take Amy into the operating room and I'm going to say to her, you need to take out a 5-centimeter brain tumor out of this person's head and not do any damage to the brain. And I put her in there and say, do it. How's she going to feel?
Google it.
Google it. Scared, helpless, maybe a little pissed at me, right? She might get a little angry with me because I'm asking her to do something that she absolutely cannot do. Now, we may think, well, what do you mean they can't brush their teeth? But we may be asking them, and they can't because that motor planning part of the brain isn't working anymore. That eye-hand coordination isn't working anymore. So frustration, now I'm tired, and I can't tell you how I feel. Okay. So remove the person or the thing that upsets the person. Now, I was walking down the hall one day, and I heard a woman screaming at her TV. Why would you do this in front of me? This is disgusting. I went into the room, and if you've watched a soap opera lately, there was a man and woman in bed on the TV. She thought they were having sex in front of her, in her room. So I went over, slid in front of the TV, and turned it off, and I turned around. I was like, it's so good to see you today. She's like, oh, well, it's great to see you too. That's how quick, if it's not visually there to prompt that behavior, we can change that pretty quick sometimes. Avoid arguing or restraining. Don't do that. Stop. No. Stop. Don't do that. She's getting ready to hit me. I want to do that all day. Try to be very calm. Reassuring. Slow down. Take a deep breath. So what is a catastrophic reaction? So I want to tell you about one of my maintenance men in one of my communities. So on a Monday morning, I moved in a resident about 10 o'clock. This is a 52-year-old gentleman who had frontal temporal lobe behavioral variant dementia, which I feel is probably the toughest type of dementia you can handle. And he had high anxiety, and now he's moving into a new place, so he really had high anxiety. And at 10 o'clock that same day, I heard this. I thought, oh, my guy's down. So I went in the room, and it wasn't my new resident. It was my maintenance man. So I looked at my new resident, and I go, hey, what happened? He goes, I don't know. He's drunk, dead drunk. I said, well, that is horrible. I said, can you do me a favor? I'm going to have you go out with, Angela was working that day. I'm going to have you go out with Angela, and I'm going to take care of him. He's like, all right. So out he went. And I said, Brian, what happened? He goes, I don't know. And his hand was covered in blood. Next to Brian's head was a boot with a steel toe in it. I said, Brian, whose fault was it? Mine. Why? Because I walked in. I was hanging pictures for our new resident. I never stopped. I never said hello, and I never told him who I was. And Brian walked in with a hammer in his hand. If I walked into your house with a tool, which I consider a tool, but maybe you think is a weapon, what would you do? You might throw a boot at my head. Exactly. But so often when someone has one of these catastrophic reactions, we come right back at them. Why would you throw that at me? They're just reacting to their environment. We need to stop. Now, poor Brian was on the floor, bleeding. But so we have to stop. Again, make that, I told you I'd say it at least 10 more times. Make that connection before you go on to doing a task. When my poor housekeepers, they were the ones that got yelled at the most in all the communities I've ever worked in, because they went to task. They went in and they started vacuuming. They went in and started dusting. Can you imagine if you were kind of waking up and you see the person from laundry taking all your clothes? What are you doing? Right, why are you taking my clothes? Well, I'm going to wash them. No, you're not. Put them back. It's an emotional or behavioral reaction to a situation that either overwhelms or creates stress because the situation is beyond the person's ability to understand. Plain and simple, right? Recognize that this behavior is not willful. This is a reactionary behavior. I'm reacting. I'm not thinking through. When that gentleman hit Brian in the head, he did not, contemplate that all day. When that guy comes, I'm going to wipe him out. It was, you're coming in my room, you have a hammer in my hand, I'm going to protect myself. So key phrases, here it is again. I'm sorry. I was trying to help. I'm sorry. I made you angry. So I want to tell you about my friend Leo, one of my favorite residents I've ever had. I grew up in Noank, Connecticut. It's down on the shoreline if anyone's been to Mystic. And Leo grew up in Old Saybrook. So we both grew up fishing. So I read that in his social history, and I was in the room with Leo and his son, who came every day at 11 o'clock. And Leo was with me about a week when I was in there talking to them. I said, Leo, you like to fish, don't you? He said, yeah. I said, do you like stripers or blues? He goes, how do you know about stripers and blues? I said, I go fishing. He goes, you're a girl. I said, I have 2 older brothers. He's like, okay. And we continued to talk about lures and what kind of boat he went out on and what kind of motor was on the boat. We would talk and bait and all these wonderful things. At 12 o'clock every day, his son took his father into lunch, dropped him off at lunch, and then he went to work. And I said as his son was walking out, he goes, I have not seen my father that animated in about 3 months. He's been pretty flat. I said, we found a memory he could talk about. It's in there. We have to unlock it, just like you were talking about earlier. But here's my mistake, and I've made a million. That afternoon after lunch, I saw Leo, and I said, Leo, wasn't it great to have that discussion this morning about fishing with your son? What do you think he said to me? Well, and so I won't get as colorful as Leo. He said, that SOB hasn't been here since he dropped me off at the front desk 6 months ago. Now, he had been with me 1 week. His son came every single day at 11 o'clock, every day. So in that moment, I said, you know what? You're right. Because if your son was here, he'd be with you. Right? Damn right he would. I said, but you know why I made the mistake? I made the mistake. Because we were talking about fishing this morning. Don't you like to fish? I love to fish. I said, do you like blues or stripers? I like to go for stripers. Really? You ever go out on the My Joy or the Black Hawk? Like the My Joy a little bit better. We had the exact same conversation we had that morning. That got me out of the moment. Yeah. So when you have a catastrophic reaction, what gets you out of the moment?
Apology. It does. And so recognizing I'm sorry goes a long way. Even if you did nothing wrong. If you see they're upset, maybe you did rush them a little bit, or maybe they, I don't know, they perceived, their perception is off and they perceived that they were wronged. I'm sorry I upset you, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry, I made you feel stupid. I didn't mean to treat you like a child. You know, and then sometimes I'm sorry this is hard. I wish I could make it better for you. You know, be human, be empathetic. It works. We can't take it away, we can't change it, but we can make them feel loved and cared and supported and less frightened. And that's really what it's all about. And the work you do is beyond belief, how important you all are to these people and their families in the homes. It's amazing. The last thing I want to say is that this Tom Kittredge is an author, and he wrote this book called Dementia Reconsidered. And there are 6 emotional needs of people, all of us. And these needs include to be occupied, our occupation, which means you being involved in the process of life in a significant way. You know, we're all occupied working or going to church, doing what we do, and that makes us feel. I'm going to pass it out after. Identity is about being in touch with the past. We have an identity. So the more you can know the story of those that you're dealing with, the better it's going to make them feel. Comfort, you know, a gentle touch, you know, helping people feel less anxious or feeling less pained is something we all appreciate. Inclusion, we want to feel included in life. We want to feel accepted as part of something. And attachment, feeling attached to people. That's something, those are our basic needs. And of course, love is also, you know, a very important need. This paper that I'm going to give you, Tom Kittredge basically talked about, like, for instance, inclusion, the need to be part of a larger group. So when you find the person you're caring for maybe hovering around you, shadowing, clinging, kind of intrusive, he's going to tell you what you can do, things to do to help them, because that's the need that's not being met. You know, involve them in an activity. Let them come sit with me. Can you help me fold this clothes? Or, you know, so that they feel included. Many times we'll be talking to their daughter, their son, their husband. They're right in front of us, and they're completely not even part of the conversation. It's important to bring them in and include them, you know, saying, oh, you know, Beverly, Jim and I were just speaking about whatever, you know, and let's say, you know, so she feels part of it. So this is kind of a good thing, because it does talk a little bit, it gives you some ideas, you know, when you're seeing somebody that's, you know, has increased agitation or kind of resisting care, wandering, that they don't feel, they need to feel more, the occupation, they don't feel they're doing anything meaningful. You want to help them to feel that, and it gives you some ideas. So this is going to be helpful, and I think you can look at that and recognize these are all emotional needs that we all need to be connected to, not just people with the dementia. So I'm going to pass this out. How about any questions? Oh, the other, before we go to the last bit of the questions. So all of you got this card. This card, Patty and I had to do with this grant we've been working under. We had to write a resource guide for caregivers, and our boss, Wendy Martinson, is very much about health literacy standards, and what that means is people of all intellectual ability, you know, it doesn't matter how old or how you know, intelligent you are, they have found that when you're talking medical, they like it at a 5th grade level to be able to understand it. So we had to write this dementia resource guide, and this is the website to go see it. You can print it if you want, or you can just review
80 pages long.
It's long, and we kept bringing it down. It came out to 7th grade level, so it's pretty understandable, and I think that we've had some good response from family members, so feel free to peruse it. If you have questions, you can call Patty or I, you can email us, but that's something we did want to pass out also. Any other questions? Okay, well, good. So I think you have an evaluation to fill out. We're going to clean up so you can all be out of here at 8 o'clock. Thank you very much.